Gulf Travel Show presents an interesting panel discussion to understand readiness to resume travel.
Hello and welcome to the Gulf Travel Show. My name is Roxana Nicolescu and I'm the brand marketing director for Wigo. But today I'm going to be your moderator for the Reimagine Travel panel. As so many other conferences, we've gone virtual with the Gulf Travel Show, and that means you can attend this panel from your home at your convenience, or for the lucky ones from your office, of course. Today we're going to have a discussion about one of the biggest challenges we're currently facing in the travel industry: how to market your destination during and post-COVID-19. Should you be cutting all your budgets and go silent, or should you actually use this opportunity to connect with customers and prospects? What are the new initiatives implemented in the destination for visitors? I'm honored to be joined by three travel and tourism experts in their field, and I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves very briefly. Yamina, can we start with you?
Of course. Hello, everybody. Thank you for this great opportunity to speak with you all today and to address you. My name is Yamina Sofor, and I'm the director of the German National Tourism Office in Dubai for the Gulf countries. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Sridhar?
Hi, greetings to everyone, whether it's a good morning or good afternoon or good evening. I'm Sridhar, Regional Director for India, Middle East and South Asia, based in Mumbai for the Singapore Tourism Board. But currently I'm talking to you from Singapore. Nice to meet all of you virtually.
Likewise. Stuart?
Yes, hi everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to talk today, and thank you Roxanne for hosting the session for us. My name is Stuart Smith. I'm the General Manager for Sojourn in the Middle East region, based out of Dubai. I've been with Sojourn for around 7 years now, and look after the Middle East and Africa region for them. And I'd just like to touch on that quickly. So as the audience are probably aware, Sojourn aren't a destination per se. So I'll be kind of running through it from an aggregated view on kind of the stuff we're doing with tourist boards globally as well as regionally, and providing a bit more of an aggregated view.
Thank you, everyone. The impact of COVID-19 crisis is being felt throughout the entire tourism ecosystem, and reopening and rebuilding destinations will require a very complex approach. Governments and industry are focusing their efforts on introducing specific measures to rebuild travelers' confidence and to attract visitors. What are the new initiatives implemented in the destination for visitors? Can we start with Yamina, please?
Sure, of course. Thank you very much. Now, especially in the tourism industry, over the last couple of months and weeks, they were very active in introducing new guidelines, the highest safety regulations, which are currently known in the world. Hotels have upgraded their sanitizing programs, museums, attractions going e-version, so electronical, so in order to make the face-to-face interactions less, but at the same time to give very good standards and reassurance to visitors that they are being welcomed, but in a very safe version. So all over the industry and all over the country, implementations have been done, as of course in many other destinations. So everybody is trying to make the best possible, which currently is known, in order to give the best opportunities in the future for safe travel.
And are you seeing any improvement from the tourist end after implementing all these measures in the destination? Do they really help?
Well, I have to be honest here. Currently, Germany is still closed for tourist and leisure travel. I say that on an international standard. Of course, Germany was open for some European neighboring countries, but since last Monday, again, we are in a soft lockdown. We are luckily not as bad affected as other European countries, but still we are going a step back again for the next couple of weeks. So hopefully December, Christmas seasons, the winter seasons, going skiing, etc. We hope that that will be possible by now taking again the very safest steps in reducing the numbers and in controlling everything again. But of course, if implementations wouldn't have been done, the situation would even be worse. So, of course, we see that what has been done so far is for the better.
Thank you, Amina. Shrithar, what about Singapore? Could you tell us a bit more about the measures implemented by Singapore?
I think like many destinations, like as Yamina has stated, a few points, right? And I think the first point I would like to make that safety, health of the citizens and the residents of the country is going to be paramount. So Singapore has gone into various phases. We had done a circuit breaker, which is essentially a lockdown sometime in about April. And then we had done a three-phased approach of reopening Singapore. And currently we are in phase 2, where various parts of the economy, in fact, many parts of the economy has restarted. And we are slowly getting back into the action of making sure that the economy is alive and we are getting different parts of the economy working. But safety and health is going to be paramount. So that's one. Two is deliberate and cautious reopening of the borders. For tourism, it is very important that there is access to each other's countries. And given the COVID-19 situation, it is not easy to just open up the borders quickly. So it is going to be very deliberate, very cautious. We have opened up considering safety, considering what kind of readiness the incoming destinations have put in place, or in-marking source markets have put in place. So as of now, we have got some form of opening to whether provinces in China, Brunei, New Zealand, Vietnam, Malaysia. So various parts of the destinations that the countries or source markets that we have done some form of opening, but deliberate and cautious. And I think finally, the third approach is, I think all of us are going to take, which is try, test, and then run. What do I mean by that? We're going to try out in some form and scheme, how can we handle safety, health, at the same time, make sure that the experiences are good for the consumers. So we have, for example, we have done a domestic tourism campaign for the Singapore citizens and the residents. So we call it Singapore Rediscover. We are giving out vouchers. We are enticing the Singaporeans to go and try out the attractions, the hotels, staycations, tours, and get a glimpse of how within this COVID-19 environment, how can you go through these experiences safely. November 6th, we have started our very first cruise to nowhere, or cruise staycations. Genting Dream has sailed off on a cruise experience for Singaporeans and residents. And very soon, by end of the month, November end, we will have Royal Caribbean starting a cruise staycation as well. So we're going to try it, we are going to test it, we are going to make sure that the systems are in place. And at some point when the tourists come back and they're going to do this kind of experiences, we are sort of ready for them. So it is trying, testing, and then once we tweak it, we then run with it for incoming tourists. So that's the approach we are taking. I'm happy that in some parts of the economy we have opened up, but we are a long way to go in this deliberate and cautious reopening to international tourism.
Thank you, Shrithar. The World Travel and Tourism Council has developed an extensive range of protocols to cover the new normal, if we can call it like this, for providers, as airlines, shops, hotels, and restaurants. Cleaning, sanitization, protective equipment such as masks, screening tools, such as thermal and infrared scanners, and reduced touch points and queuing will all shape the travel experience for some time. And it already started actually. Will there be new offerings in keeping with the new normal in your destination, Yamina?
Thank you very much. Of course, the current existing experiences and destinations are still there, but as they're being developed, some creativity came in as well. So some experiences enhanced themselves and created virtual activities. So, for example, especially at these days where you can't travel and go inside a museum or a castle, these attractions developed new ways of experiencing from all over the world. So you can go virtually inside the castle and visit and see the attraction itself. So each attraction itself actually developed themselves on a virtual basis. So the offerings are much wider now than before.
Thank you. Sridhar, what about Singapore?
I think digital and contactless is something that all of us will have to get used to. So even as we speak, as we get ready for Singapore Rediscover Domestic Tourism, a lot of the attractions have gone digital and contactless. You pre-book your experience, you go there is no on-site cash transactions. Wherever possible, you are doing your contactless transaction. So that's one. Two, hybrid is going to be a word that all of us are going to get very familiar with. Hybrid means whether it's for the MICE, especially for the MICE industry, meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions, a lot of the events is going to be hybrid. So as we look at the event space or MICE space, up to maybe 250 people will gather in the on-site meeting and incentive or exhibition, which is the current number for Singapore. Up to 250, we allow on-ground event for the MySpace. And then you've got virtually people tuning in for that hybrid event. And you may even have, so the Marina Bay Hybrid Studio, Marina Bay MBS here, Marina Bay Singapore has done a hybrid studio where you can actually have a holographic rendition of a person joining in from other parts of the world for a MICE event that's happening in Singapore. So hybrid is going to be very prevalent. And I think the third thing is going to be that people are going to get very used to this idea of having to pay a premium, right? Some form of premium has to be paid for safety and all of these measures that we are taking. So, for example, as you have mentioned, Roxana, which is clean initiatives. So today we have a Singapore Clean Initiative where we certify establishments across Singapore which are safe and clean for the consumers. And to date, we have certified 25,000 such establishments with the Singapore Clean mark. And those kind of marks are going to be important for consumers to consider in getting into an establishment. And that may add up to some form of premium, some form of insurance coverage when you come into the country for an experience. And these are elements that a consumer will have to start looking at. And I think that's how travel and tourism, as it restarts and rebuilds, those are some of the things that will be a new norm, which is what we are now loosely using, but that is going to be a set of standard operating procedures when people are going to travel. Thank you.
Thank you. So, one of the first casualties during a crisis is usually the marketing budget. We all know that. Actually, according to research, nearly 90% of travel companies have slashed their budgets due to COVID-19. Marketeers obviously should adapt their Marcom strategies accordingly. Stuart, what is the change in the marketing budgets seen by Sojourn during this time?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll be interested to hear Shreetha and Yamina's point of view on this too. Obviously, they're quite well placed for this. But I think, I mean, what will happen is that hopefully destinations will continue to look for smarter and more efficient ways to spend their marketing dollars. And this may even accelerate a bit further the shift from offline to online, which is more measurable. I think being able to measure and to provide an ROI on your marketing activity now is going to become even more under the spotlight, as well as kind of working with partners who are able to do this for destinations moving forward. Looking at, I mean, the different kind of products we offer at Sojourn from a full funnel solution. So really engaging with people in their dreaming phase all the way through down to the conversion phase. We're seeing a lot more interest in performance offerings from destinations where we can measure and report on bookings or searches or intent, for example, as part of what we call tourism co-op campaigns. rather than the upper funnel destination awareness campaigns. And this makes sense as we can use the co-op program in essence to both support local partners on the ground, whether that be a hotel or an attraction who are looking to entice visitors into their destination, but necessarily don't have the money and funds anymore to do that, and how then the tourist board can work with those partners to kind of joint fund or potentially even fund the whole program themselves to take advantage of some of the different trends we're seeing now. I think Shritha mentioned earlier, obviously in Singapore, they're doing a big push on staycations. We're seeing a lot of destinations do that at the moment and coming to us to see how we can help support that and to get these offers out to the market.
For Yamina, the closure of borders hit most tourism boards, we all know that. So for the next year, will there be a decrease in the budgets for promotions, for marketing in general?
Well, I think unfortunately we're not the only destination, and it's fair to say that most tourism boards have to make some sort of budget cuts, yes, because there were immense, huge losses of revenue over the last months. But turning ourselves around, as Stuart already mentioned, you have to start to be more creative, to be more cost effective. And I think people got a little wake-up call. And now we see also that, yes, it's possible to address your audience and to get people interested in your destination and to show your destination, but through new channels which are more cost-effective. And that's what we also have done over the last couple of weeks. We've communicated with our travel partners through webinars instead of traveling. So that's another cost-effective way to stay close to your partners, to keep them updated, to keep them trained and informed and interested in your destination, and to give them the updates they need in order for the future to sell your destination. On the other hand, B2C, your end customer, as well, of course, they have a lot of questions. So there again, we are very creative and updating our social media in order to keep our end clients informed and interested for future travel. So yes, of course, budget cuts are in place and will be in place probably over the next periods. But again, there is no need, and definitely you should not stop communicating. That's the key now. You need to stay close to your partners and to your customers, because now that's the time where they have a huge demand, a lot of questions, and some of them now have the time to be more adventurous in their search for new travel destinations. So they want to experience and they want to see now where they can travel in future.
I can't agree more with this. We should keep talking with our audience. Shritha, at your end, is Singapore Tourism Board planning to cut marketing budgets for next year?
The short answer is yes, some form of budget cuts or some form of budget rationalization is going to happen. I think it is evidently not status quo, right? But how deep is going to be the budget cut? And in that area, I would like to offer the thought that it may not be as deep a cut as many partners may think. For the simple reason as what Yamina has said, we really need to continue our consumer engagements. We need to continue our trade engagements, keeping ties warm, making sure that information is being sent out, because there's a lot of concerns about travel in this COVID-19 era. And you cannot sit silent and just say, find out for yourself, and if you feel safe, come over. No, it's not going to be like that. We need to communicate what is Singapore doing, what is Germany doing, what is another destination doing, what's happening in our current destination experiences, what has changed, what are some of the safety measures we have put in place, how is travel going to be like. We need to educate, we need to and ties. So that's going to continue. So my thought is that rationalization is going to happen, and of course we need to look at the global picture of how marketing is going to be done for tourism, right? So if I, as I've told you earlier, certain markets that we have opened up, and of course currently it is more essential and business travel that's coming from countries like China, and those kind of markets probably going in and engaging the consumers, we will require some budgets earlier. And some other markets, whether it's like Middle East or South Asia, where we will probably open up borders to these regions a bit later, maybe the budgets will come in a bit later. But we need to do the consumer engagement. And as Stewart said, partnerships is going to be very, very key. And it is not just going to be partnerships with travel trade, it is going to be partnerships with non-travel trade. And here we are looking for high consumer touch platforms or organizations or agencies that can help us bring the messaging to the consumers. So I think rationalization of the budgets is going to happen, but there's going to be assessment of relevance. There's going to be an assessment of what is our marketing dollar going to be spent better on. And I think in that area, more digital collaborations, more collaborations with high consumer platforms, I think those kind of things are going to happen. So it is not, I mean, I would like to think that the marketing budgets will have to be maintained at some level, and hopefully not a very deep cut level that many people in the industry may be thinking about.
So, what do you think would be the main risks if you cut the budgets too drastically as a travel brand, as a destination?
You lose connection, and I mean, connections is what the entire tourism industry is about. You need to stay connected, you need to stay relevant, you need to entice and communicate your messaging very clearly with the different audiences, and in an evolving world. So actually, if you look at it, even pre-COVID, there's a lot of fundamental shifts in the way we were communicating to the audience. We need to get a lot more targeted. We needed to get a lot more digital. We need to get a lot more customized in our communications. And that was already there pre-COVID. But I think now COVID-19 has hastened the pace. You need to be a lot more focused on what is the messaging to which audience, what kind of timely, real-time information can you put out there so that people are making very informed choices. So I think if we don't connect, we are not going to have the kind of traction when, and it is not just a if travel and tourism returns, it is a question of when travel and tourism returns. Have you been engaging the market, and is the audience have been communicating with, are they familiar with what you have been talking about your destination? So if no marketing, you lose the connections, and that's very bad for any national tourism organization.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, my next question was exactly around the kind of messages you are planning to put out there. Because as you all mentioned, remaining visible throughout the pandemic has been critical objective for travel brands, and the marketing mix, wherever applicable, has been changed, and it might remain so for some time. Have you decided which channels will use to market the destination in the near future? The main channels, actually. Yamina?
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned previously, we are going to focus on a lot of social media, but again, have a very personal and emotional approach to the customer, because traveling is so essential and important. The decision being taken by a traveler where to travel to is a personal decision, and it's such an important time of the year for the person to go on holiday. They want to make the right decision, and so you want to be, the destination want to be your friend, and that's you stay close with friends, and if you cannot give them a hug, you're trying to give them a virtual hug. So I think that's how we're going to have a very inspirational and close approach to our customers and partners in order to let them feel safe, informed, and hopefully welcome them in future with a big hug.
Stuart, are you seeing any changes in the marketing mix adopted by tourism boards during this time? And what is the main channel they are using? I know social media is king for everyone, but are you seeing anything else?
I mean, I think we're still halfway through the whole COVID situation. I think at the first few months, a lot of everything was paused, obviously, with borders being closed, and in some circumstances, they are still closed, right? Some are opening up again, some have got air corridors and all those kind of things in place. So I think destinations have been taking their time to assess this correctly in the right way to see how they can open things up and what channels they can potentially use in a safe, sustainable way. Something we have been seeing, though, is people asking for a lot more data. So if you look at Sojourn, we've got access to billions of intent travel data points from time to time. And now destinations are looking, okay, not only, okay, what channels they can activate, but how they can use this data in a smart way to be able to activated in these channels that they do look at going across. So looking at it more holistically, looking at, okay, where are people starting to search from to come to my destination? What do those trends look like? I mean, if it is opening up borders, for example, to certain countries, does that mean that people will start looking to come visit your destination straight away? Maybe, maybe not. So by looking and understanding this data initially to look at, then you can obviously then look at the different type of channels you can activate it against. So by doing that, we've seen, obviously, you mentioned it, is social is an important channel. You can activate data across that. You can look at display activity too in programmatic channels and activate it against that. And that's where we're kind of seeing a lot of emphasis being put on essentially with the tourist boards first. It is obviously very competitive now too. So there's a finite amount of travelers. There's lots of destinations trying to entice these travelers to come to their destinations if they are able to. So yeah, by being able to look at that data and activating across social and display and video, those kind of things too, just to put visitors who are looking to come to a destination, put their minds at ease that it is a safe place to come visit. Obviously, that's the most important. And I think everyone will agree that people want to go to a place where they feel comfortable in visiting. And if you are able to do that and use this across different types of channels, I think that's what we're seeing a lot of destinations do at the moment.
It is often said that the best lessons are learned during hard times and when we make mistakes. Do we agree with that? What are the lessons learned over the pandemic? Yamina?
I think the biggest lesson for us is that you have to stay flexible and to be up on your toes at all times. And that even your competitors are not your competitors. They are just your team members, all aiming for the same goal. So you have to join hands together because we all want to make travel possible in a safe manner. And I think, yes, that's what we've learned over the last couple of weeks and months. Stay flexible, and if you have a closed door, you find an open window. So there's always a way around, and I think a lot of people got very creative out of difficult situations. So it's also nice to see that a lot of good things came out of this traumatic times we faced and we currently still facing.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't seen so much synergy between brands ever before, like I'm seeing now during COVID. Shrita, would you like to share some lessons you've learned during this pandemic?
I think for me, a few things, and some of these points, I echo Yamina's points. First and foremost, humility and empathy seems to have come back big time, right? We realize we are not really masters of many things. This COVID-19, this virus has thrown open a lot of unpredictable situations and how we are going to cope with it. So you needed to be humble, you needed to have empathy, and that has come back. Second, I think collaborations and relationships have never mattered even more than in this current situation. And thankfully, we have been always, Singapore Tourism Board has been always very careful in collaborating. And this year's theme for us in our trade engagement was growing connections, achieving together. And I remember starting the year off thinking about how do we grow connections with the travel trade, and through them, how do we grow connections with the consumers, and how then can we achieve mutually beneficial results. And I realized that during this COVID-19, cooperation and collaboration has become so key that through either through webinars or through virtual platforms, how do we communicate with the travel trade and keep them informed, and how do we work with them? And finally, I think agility. So as a marketing approach, Singapore Tourism has always taken a agile, bold, creative marketing approach. And I think this year we have to be also putting in extra attention to the word effective. So it's agile, bold, creative, and effective marketing. And I think we needed to go back to some reset in the way we think through some of this. And the pandemic has caused us to reevaluate many equations. So a lot of things are going to change on how do we collaborate with partners, how do we communicate with our consumers. But the fundamentals remain: partnerships, collaborations, communications, connections. The fundamentals remain. So as I was thinking about how would I look at the next year or 18 months, how is it going to be? And I think all of us miss going to the movies. So if I'm going to use a movie analogy, and as Stewart has said, when the COVID-19 hit, production stopped, right? Nobody was producing any movies. All of us just stopped. We have started some teasers and trailers. And what's going to happen for the next 12 months to 18 months, a lot of these teasers and trailers are going to be out there in the market to connect with our consumers. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, some of them can come over to experience the main film in Singapore. Because the numbers eventually, when we restart the travel, the numbers are going to be a bit small, and then it will gradually build up when trust in the ecosystem of travel and tourism builds up. So it is going to be a lot of teasers and trailers for a start, and hopefully at some point, consumers will come in and look at the main film in the respective destinations. Thank you.
I'm sure they will. We just realized how many things we took for granted. So, as you mentioned, even a cinema movie became a big thing these days. Absolutely. So, Stuart, would you like to share with us a few points?
Yeah, certainly. So I think, if anything, the pandemic's shown us that we need to focus on what we can control too. So many factors are out of our control at the moment. Obviously international travel is down a lot and not likely to come back to 2019 levels for some time. So there's no short-term fix. However, building on what the other guys said was around increasing coordination and communication between public and private sectors. I think we've seen that have been happening a lot, even from Sojourn's point of view and speaking to those organizations, to ensure that when the travel industry does come back and will come back, that they're best placed to take advantage of that rebound as soon as it does start to happen. So I think that's very important. And then, building on some of the other questions and points that we spoke about is kind of being able to have the ability to do more with less, being smart and agile as a way to do that, I think will be important.
Any advice to give your peers in the industry, Yamina?
Any advice? Well, I've seen a lot of people taking the time to do some extra education as well, getting trained, especially the people in the tourism industry, updating themselves, joining webinars, being certified as guides of different or experts of different destinations. So I think taking the time again to give your personal and your professional education a more stable base will also benefit you in the future to be better serving your customers, but to also be more effective for your company and your employer.
Can't agree more. Shritar, any advice?
No advice, just a few points of maybe few points for us to note. Number one, travel and tourism has for a long time been a discretionary spend, right? But over the last decade or more, it has become an important discretionary spend for many of us consumers. And I think eventually, as Stuart said, going back to pre-COVID or going back to 2019 numbers may take a while, but travel and tourism will come back, and we need to be ready. So that's one. It's an important discretionary spend. Humans or people need to travel to experience different cultures, different places, so it will come back, and we have to be ready. The second point is we are in an industry, and I think one of the biggest positive and energizing thought is we are in an industry where a lot of passionate people, driven, motivated, they are not going to just lie down and stay defeated. The industry, the travel and tourism, hospitality industry is a very resilient, very motivated industry. I think it is going through a very, very rough patch in many markets, in many countries, yes. But we have very dedicated, passionate professionals. I think if we come together and work together, we can get ready for the new travel wave that will come maybe a few years down the road, but we need to start prepare. So our theme for next year, as I said, this year's theme was growing connections, achieving together. But our theme for trade engagement and getting our work organized for next year is charting our pathways to recovery. And it is about jointly charting. It is not that the NTO has all the answers. We don't. We look out for our partners to give us some suggestions, some ideas. How do we do this together for mutually beneficial results? And then we can chart our pathway, whether it is recovery in MICE, whether it's in cruise, leisure travel, family travel, working millennials, any kind of travel that we need to bring from the source market into the destination. We need to figure out the pathways together. So it is an open invitation and welcome to the travel trade that let us work together, and we will come out through this with hopefully a lot more vigor and renewed energy. Thank you.
I'm sure about that. I personally expect a revenge travel after this pandemic. So hopefully that will happen. Before we wrap up, Stuart, do you have any piece of advice to give travel marketeers in the industry?
Sure. First of all, I like that term, revenge travel. I think it's a good one. So yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, just building on what Yasmina and Shweta said was kind of, I know it's hard, right, but to try and keep calm, right? I think everyone's been very stressed out recently, and there's lots of things going on, and quite rightly so, that everyone is a bit worried. But I think one thing we'll all be in agreement with, and we said it before, is that travel will come back. So it's kind of how you can use this moment in time to kind of be innovative, look at new types of partnerships, and how you can be best placed to come out of this. And when by doing that, and the right steps are taken now to make these experiences safe, make the destination enjoyable, because that's also going to be important, right? It's not just having your destination open, it's having the destination there where you can still enjoy everything within that destination. So I think that's important, and that's obviously done by working with local partners on the ground, working with the tourist boards, etc., to ensure that the visitor still has a good time when they go on holiday, which will be key.
Thank you. Well, I'm afraid that's it for today. I would like to thank my guests, Yamina, Stuart, Shriter, for your participation. I would also like to thank all attendees for being such a wonderful audience. We hope you enjoyed our session and it gave you some food for thought for your own business. Thanks again and stay safe.